All right, here we are for the last video in the happiness series. I hope that you're getting a lot out of this and that you've been able to implement some of these principles into your everyday life as I've released these videos over the last couple of weeks. So in today's video, we're talking about who do you have around you? Who are the people that are around you? What do your relationships look like? My name is Dr. Matthew Shem. I'm the owner of Peak Brain Performance Centers here in Colorado Springs. And the first thing we're talking about is one of the longest running psychological studies in history, where they followed 268 men through their entrance into college in the late 1930s and then all the way through the present day. And what they found was that 70 years of evidence proved that our relationships with other people matter and matter more than anything else in the whole world. Okay. That's a pretty strong statement, right? Another thing is, like food and air, we seem to need social relationships to thrive. Why? Because when we have a community of people we can count on, whether that be your spouse, your family, your friends, your colleagues, we multiply our emotional, intellectual, and physical resources. We even bounce back from setbacks faster, and we can accomplish more and feel a greater sense of purpose when we have this relationship or these relationships around us. In this study, researchers sought out the characteristics of the happiest 10% of people in the whole world. Do they live in a certain climate? Does it have to do with their level of physical activity or their financial status? What they found was that only one characteristic distinguished the happiest 10% of people from everybody else, and that was the strength of their social relationships. Pretty amazing, huh? Another thing is, evolutionary psychologists explain that the innate need to affiliate and form social bonds has been literally hardwired into our biology. What they mean is that when we make a positive social connection, the pleasure-inducing hormone, oxytocin, is released into our bloodstream immediately, which then reduces anxiety and improves concentration and focus and all different kinds of things. So it's literally hardwired into us. On the flip side of that, a national survey of 24,000 workers found that men and women with few social ties were 2 to 3 times more likely to suffer from major depressive disorder than people with strong social ties. Okay, so again, it ties into our health. Another thing tying into our health is that they found that people who received emotional support during the 6 months following a heart attack were 3 times more likely to survive. This goes to show the importance of support groups around like cancer or all these various complex illnesses. People with strong relationships are less likely to perceive situations as stressful in the first place. So investing in social connections means that you'll find it easier to interpret adversity as a path to growth and opportunity. And when you do have to experience that stress, you'll end up bouncing back from it faster and better protected against its long-term negative effects. Another interesting study stated that the greatest predictor of a team's achievement was how the members felt about one another. So if you're an employee, oftentimes you have very little control over the background or the skill set of a fellow employee. But what you do have is control over the level of interaction and rapport you build with that coworker, right? And so what they found was that the more team members are encouraged and to socialize and interact actually face to face, the more engaged they felt, the more energy they had, and the longer that they could stay focused on a particular task. In this study, researchers found that a group of employees who worked for 2 different supervisors on alternate days. One they had a good rapport with, and one they did not. Okay, so they split these people up, and they had a group of employees. One had they had a good supervisor on certain days, and they had a bad supervisor on other days. On the days that the bad supervisor was in office, their average blood pressure shot up. And so it seems that bad relationships with your boss can be as bad for you as a steady diet of fried foods and not nearly as much fun, right? It's estimated that United States-based companies lose $360 billion each year due to lost productivity from employees who have poor relationships with their supervisors. Isn't that crazy? And as the famous saying goes, a single butterfly flapping its wings can create a hurricane halfway around the world. And what this is saying is that the flap of the butterfly's wings may be small, but it creates a slight gust of wind that eventually picks up more speed and power as it progresses. And so one small change can trigger this cascade of a bigger event. And I would challenge you to think of yourself as that butterfly. Each small effort that we implement towards a more positive mindset can send these positive ripples of positivity throughout our organizations or our families or our communities. And so I hope that you've enjoyed this series as much as I've enjoyed making it for you, and that you actually put these principles into use, especially if you're one of those autoimmune patients that I talked about in past videos, where we discussed how there's a lot of autoimmune patients out there where rather trivial stressors just seem to debilitate you. So ultimately, the more you practice these principles that we've outlined throughout this whole series, the more you will continue to shift your mindset towards the positive and away from the negative, and the more you cement these habits in for the long haul. And then as your brain continues to become more adept at one habit, you will improve your ability to capitalize on the rest. So until next time.